As long as one of the things for me too is that because I'm an introvert who's surrounded by a lot of people, and I also have to, I have family things that I go through. I'll actually mention it in a moment. So that means I'm always surrounded by people. As long as there's something that's removed from people, that's what actually rejuvenates my spirit. So it's almost having those moments to do the thing I want to. And if what I want to do is such and such, you know what I mean? If what I want to do is read about real estate right now, that is still a thing. So as long as it's downtime, it has to do with removal from people and allowing it to kind of manifest, what is it really spiritually at this moment I need?
Yeah.
That works.
Melting Pot, a global podcast series hosted by Payal, connects guests who have inspiring stories and reaches out to a multicultural audience over 52 countries. Guests are diverse, such as celebrities, entrepreneurs, travelers, and many more who've had a turning point in their lives and moved over to a holistic lifestyle. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, social media. Hi everyone. Today I am in conversation with the lovely Zonsiluo Gompah, and I'm going to call her Siluo moving forward. Siluo is the president of Esther Egg Inc., which is a production company. She's an actress, she's a writer, a producer. She has an interest in stories that move people, speak of what life really is, and plant hope. Siluo is truly multifaceted, multi-talented, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Payal. You make me feel so good.
No, because that is you. I'm not doing anything to actually enhance your image, because that's who you really are. And I am so excited to hear how you actually got inspired into a journey of filmmaking. That's one. And how did the world of storytelling, where you focus more on people and how you can inspire hope through your stories, is something that would be really interesting, not just for me, but for everyone else to hear.
Yeah, I feel like my story is a long story, and it's long because my journey's been long. At the age of 8, someone asked me what I wanted to do with my life, and I thought, oh, I want to be an actress. And that has never changed, and that's always been the forefront and the burning passion. But my upbringing was interesting. I was born in Liberia. My parents literally came from the interior, and somehow through a lot of trials and opportunities and scary things, they were able to get out of that space and also actually get to the US. So anyway, my country is one that is pretty war torn. And at one point, my dad was pretty much the speech writer of the future dictator of Liberia. And through those experiences and just other things, I've witnessed a lot of pain and struggle and just really, I think, heart-wrenching stories, as well as stories of triumph. My parents also were people who really deeply cared for other people. They wanted to make a difference. They've seen more than I've ever seen. And it was something they wanted to pass on to their children in terms of, just a life of service. And so for me, just kind of meshing the two things, art, filmmaking, and trying to serve people and make a difference and be part of something, that's kind of how it came together over time. With the producing thing, though, when I was a teenager, I used to read everyone's biography, from just all the movie greats in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all of it up to current day. And I remember at one point reading Tom Cruise's biography. And
I did not even know that there was a Tom.
Well, it was a biography written about him, and they kind of pulled together all these different interviews and all these different things. And at one point, he just said that he became very good at knowing the camera, knowing where his light was. He learned all the technical things, and that's what actually distinguished his career. And I thought, oh, okay. And that was actually something that was exciting to me. And so as I was going through college, at one point I was an English major, and I took a class at my school in which I'm saying class at my school, of course. The class it was about doing industrials or something like that. And so we were able to study all these films. And while we're studying the films, it just really, something happened. And I ended up transferring to a college that had production major. And I remember just kind of like think about what Tom Cruise said. And I thought, okay, you know what? If I understood the back end of everything, it'd be so much better. And so I went there and I found out that I'm not technical in terms of I don't shoot very well. My eyesight's not that great. All these different things don't happen, but I did understand how to make a film. And I remember at one point watching this film in which we had a lot of avant-garde things. I remember this woman just kind of flitting through the hallway, running, 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 and she was the filmmaker. And I thought, that's kind of fun. If I could make films and make $40,000 a year and just do that, that would be kind of fun. And so that was kind of like the first time that was planted fully. But I still just was thinking about being an actor. And I think I had that struggle that, I think a lot of actors have, which is that if people don't put you in your films, then, you know what I mean? Are you really liked and wanted? Or do you make them and have some kind of controller power? And
how do you ensure that the people that you collaborate with, they share your vision for storytelling? Because clearly for you, what I understand is that your storytelling has to be inspirational and something that actually connects with people, whether it's emotionally or in some way makes a difference. So
right.
what are some of the factors that you consider when you're actually looking at collaborating with other people?
Mm-hmm. So, you know what? It's always a bit of a miracle, I think, because there are things you can look for, but then the art of actually working with someone is something else. And I think I've actually been very fortunate. One of the things is that I do have a team that's around me now, and that team have come from different things. So I have two producers, and they're the most instrumental in the company right now, and I lean on them a lot. Both of them were long-term friends. So Halima, I done a film with, and I met her, I think in 2007. So we've known each other for quite a while. And we met through some unexpected circumstances. She's Muslim, I'm Christian. And we ended up meeting at a Bible study in which a friend brought her to and then left her there. And so that's how we, became friends. And they said, oh, we should put prayer partners together. And she was like, well, I don't really pray like you guys do. And I said, well, we'll just figure it out. And we ended up becoming friends from that. And so we had collaborated in different ways. In the past, we tried to make a feature film together, but didn't really know how. And then we did a short, and just was an amazingly talented person. Her writing was always off the charts and still is. She just really gets everything from format to, she just can really dig in and get the emotion, even in something very simple. She also is a very talented actress. And when I'm trying to run lines, that's the person I want to go to, because she'll figure out things that I won't see.
Right.
And she'll get things out of me. And it's just a really great creative partner to have. At the same time, she's a lawyer, so she also has that side of her brain that can understand the other parts. And then there's Nate. And Nate, so Halima, by the way, came into the company, I think 2019. And at that point, I understood, oh yeah, I need collaborators on this end as well. And I reached out and even put some ads out, and ended up with 3 people. And through the pandemic, she was the one who stayed of the 3. And then Nate was someone I met also in a Bible study. And we met for like 5 minutes and got on really well. Didn't really have that much interaction, occasional like Facebook comments, I think, from me on his page. And then in 2017, he reached out and wanted to talk a little bit more, especially with some of the political things that were going on in the US at the time, and just these conversations we're starting to have. And so from there, we became really great friends and confidants. And I understood at that point that he wanted to be a director. And he had written his first book. And again, just someone who had a really detailed eye. He's good at the creative. He's also good at the other parts. And yeah, and so then at some point I was considering, okay, who do we add to our team now that we are a smaller team, or we're just a team of 2? I'd love to have another person or so. And I went, oh, wait, May. And I knew that he wanted to do a production company at some point. I said, why don't you just join this one? And it's been really great. I think what's good too is that they actually work together better, I think, than I work with them, in terms of like there's a similarity in their brains. And so there have been times I've been able to literally just watch and sit back while they do all the stuff that I can't get. And so that's one thing. And then we've worked with interns, and I work with virtual assistants and all that stuff. And so some bit of that is hit and miss.
How do you pick stories to tell? Through, you do more shorts, is my understanding, right, at the moment? And so
yeah. We've done a lot of shorts, and that, sometimes is a conversation that we've had, because for me, we're really at that point where we're focusing, and for them as well, really focusing on features and TV shows. And so that's our real focus right now. I've done a lot more shorts than they have. And so sometimes it's a thought of, okay, do we do this? And I feel like right now, when we do shorts, it's going to be something that's attached to something we're doing. So we might do a trailer for one of the TV shows we're working on, or that kind of thing. So right now we're featured, right? Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, how important is empathy in crafting stories that can connect people emotionally? From your point of view, and given your journey coming from Liberia and all the experiences that you've had, which obviously you're not able to highlight in detail, but how important do you think empathy is? So that's the first part of what I want to ask you. And then I also wanted to ask you, how do you get feedback for all the work that you do? Because I think it's important to have that element and be able to then take away from the feedback. So I wonder how you work with that process. They're 2 very different questions, but I've just sort of tried to bring them together. Yeah, I'd be interested to know.
It's funny because I think that different people work in different ways. So I would say there may be a place for someone who is not empathetic, but they have certain skill sets when it comes to filmmaking. Okay. However, for us, empathy is really important. It just kind of allows you to understand the moments that matter. First of all, picking them and how you're going to tell them, and just the little nuances. And to just give you an idea, we're working on this feature, and it is based on a true story about, his name is Aranda McLean, and he was shot in the back of the head when he was 10 years old. It was a stray bullet. And we actually spent quite a bit of time interviewing people who were involved, the police who found him and saved his life, talking to his family members, and all those things. And I think if I can just highlight with maybe 2 different examples, one of them is that when we were interviewing the female police officer, first of all, just really taking that time, we could feel their stories. There were times in which people would cry, and it might even be a cop crying about something that happened I think 22, 23 years ago now. And so I think connecting with them and understanding the power, we were able to then translate that to the page. So we started out with a script that it was good, but I remember when I read it, it didn't pull any heartstrings as important as the story was and how powerful it was. And I remember there was a little detail that the female cop gave, and Halima was able to take that detail and just craft her whole story into two different moments. So you fully understood what happened to her, but then also have her, talk to somebody. And as she's talking to somebody, I mean, that's when I broke in the story, is listening to her, is reading that part of her talking to this person. And I just started crying. And I think without empathy, I think empathy it does distinguish how well a story is told.
Yeah.
Because it's not sometimes in all the stuff. I mean, this is important, like we're talking about gun violence. We're talking about the destruction of lives. We're talking about lives being changed and forced into situations. We're talking about someone having to recover. And you can watch that all day.
But
you can watch that all day and still it doesn't necessarily prick the heart. But there's that moment in which if you can connect with something, and just like it was in that moment is the brokenness of this cop who just picked up this little boy. Right. And so you can't get to those moments without empathy.
Yeah.
So then the other question you asked was feedback. It's so funny. We're just starting to get feedback because we just, in the last couple of years, started actually submitting films to film festivals and stuff. And this morning I actually was reading something in which we had progressed to a certain level. And they wrote so much in detail about the film. And that was really special. It was really special. And I think that it helps you to know that you're doing something right. Because sometimes you don't know. You go, oh, that was nice for me. That was really nice for me. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed working with these people and all the little moments that people don't see. But to have someone write in depth about the change that this little creation did in their hearts or did in their life or in their thinking, or just even the fact that after they've looked at all these different films, this one came up as meaning something.
Yeah.
So it is important. I think it keeps you going and keeps you on track, and it actually helps you to distinguish what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
But we've also spent a long time without it.
Before I let you go, any kind of, I won't say words of wisdom, but any kind of advice that you may have because this industry is, whichever part of the world it may be in or maybe from, it's very difficult to get that breakthrough. So any kind of advice that you may have for young, whether they're aspiring directors or writers or producers, anything that you would like to share on how they can, what are the things that they should be doing, and what are the things that, because there's a lot of disappointment as well. So
sure.
Yeah, so any kind of advice that you may have for them.
Yeah, this is the first thing, is that I don't believe in giving up. This field may be tough to kind of find our road, and there'll be moments that even if you do get a certain level of success or get to a certain place, you still have to reevaluate because things change. But this is the thing, is that for most of us, we grew up being told we should have a plan B, or even better yet, just do the plan B. Don't do that. It's too hard. What I've learned is that information is really false. If you're an artist of any kind, there's a way in for all of us. And I think one of the things that's been great with the industry is that we are switching to something that's more open and showing more faces and more stories. So that means more than any other time, there's a place for you. So a lot of it is just trying to find your voice. And it is a thing of, if you're not doing it, you're not learning, and not only are you not learning, you're not, what's the word, kind of honing your skills.
Yeah.
And so especially for people who are actors and things like that, one of the things you're going to find is that for so many people, the reason you're not landing jobs, for instance, is maybe you're not auditioning enough. Do you know what I mean? And so you want to create as much as you can create. And you just have to remember two things, which is that several things. One is to focus on, know what your goal is and focus on that goal. Make some small steps every single day with that in mind. And you can always, I think it's really important to realize this is a business. Okay. And so that means that you have to understand business rules in some ways. And it doesn't mean that you have to know all of it, but that's why you get a team around you. So what you don't know, then you want to be able to pay for it or get it in some ways, right? So make sure that you're just working towards things. And there have been a lot of studies that actually proved, at least in the US, that actually going ahead and diving into that artistic career is as good as whatever you're being told to do instead. It's lucrative, it works, it pays off. And the two things that you need, skill, and network. And your network actually starts with anyone right now. You never know. It could be your mom. That's the only person. Start with your mom.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can build from that. And so just continue doing, and also just realize that your voice and what it's going to look like for you will develop over time. And it has for me.
There should be no fear of rejection because, like you mentioned, you need to audition a lot. And after 100 rejections, the 101st audition will go through, but don't give up. And I think that, that is a very important message. And you're absolutely right that if you're already thinking of falling back on your plan B, then you will not give plan A as much as you should or you could. So that really is the most important thing. So absolutely. Thank you so much. I have really enjoyed talking to you, Siluo. I wish you all the very best, and with your mom as well. Do look after yourself. And who knows, we'll meet somewhere someday because the world is so small today. For more weekly conversations, do listen to Melting Pot on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Podcast Melting Pot. So until the next episode, this is Payal signing off.